Homeowners. I'm joined here today with Jake Lehman. He's an HVAC expert. We are here to ask him a few questions today. Jake, how are you doing?
Good.
So tell us a bit about yourself.
I have been working with Action for around 15 years. As far as my experience goes, I have been doing HVAC for about 25 years. So I started off pretty young as an apprentice. Worked my way through kind of the ranks and the knowledge of experience, and now I run an apprenticeship program that I train guys to do HVAC, and I also try to share as much knowledge with customers as I can.
Awesome, that's great, I love that. So you see a lot of customers every day, is that mostly what you do?
I do. As much as I possibly can. I love the customer service experience and being able to go out and just really build those relationships with customers. So anytime I'm able to get out in the field and really, see what it is, what kind of customer needs that I can meet, I'm out there and I do that.
That's awesome. What does a normal, average, everyday look like for you?
Normally my day, I start the night prior. We really want to make sure that we're prepared for our day, so I start going over that. So when I get there in the morning, I can really make sure my guys are prepared to do what they need to do. Whether it's getting HVAC equipment or addressing any issues that we could possibly have with customers, and from then on it is just getting out in the field, checking on jobs, making sure that they're going in just with the best quality we possibly can provide.
Absolutely, that's great. So your role in the company is kind of checking on quality and making sure everything's just going.
Absolutely. I do a lot of day-to-day operations in the office too, but my main concern is just to back up the guys that are out in the field and taking care of the customer.
That's wonderful. And what issues would you say you kind of see the most?
As far as issues, every construction project has its problems, but with as long as we've been doing this, we really try to stay organized. So I don't see a lot of issues that arise for the actual install portion of it. If there is any issues, normally that is just operation issues. That's why I try to get out in the field and really train my guys so that they are able to talk with the customer, go over everything that they need after they, whether it's some sort of service, repair, replacement of a system. There's just, really basic information that you can give a customer, even if you've been a homeowner for 25 years, 30 years, however long you've lived in your home, that can help you out to operate your system properly. So just passing that along to a customer is the best thing that we can do.
I like that. Yeah. So is there anything that you would say causes major issues with HVAC systems, and how can people avoid that?
I would say the number one reason why I go out on a call, or any of my guys go out on a call, is always the air filter. It causes anything from minor issues to major issues. Part of the reason why that is some of the minor issues is it's just getting your system dirtier than it should because the filter is not being changed. Some of the major issues is everything with HVAC has to do with airflow, and as a filter gets dirty, you are just slowly losing your airflow, and then that causes overheating on your furnace, and really any kind of equipment you want it to run how it was designed to run. As it starts to overheat, you start damaging parts in that system. So to avoid that, the simplest thing is to just make sure you're changing your filter on time.
Okay. Would you say like people with pets or a lot of hair or dander, stuff like that. Do you think that they need to change their filters more often than most?
Absolutely. Condition of environment is always a concern. The number one question I get asked is how often do I change my filter? I say that you should change it every single month on the 1st. Reason why I say the 1st is because if it's on the 5th, you know you're 5 days late. And then it's also like you can't write that in stone. You have things like pollution, weather will kick up dust. That gets into your home. Children, obviously, they play outside, come in, they bring in a lot of dust. Time of year, I'm not running my system as much in spring as I am in winter or summer. So it's going to actually filter the air more in the summer because my AC is always on or my furnace is always on. So the best way to check that, I actually say pull your filter out and hold it up to the light. The reason why is because pollution and smoke sometimes can clog an air filter, but it comes through as a white color, not a gray or dark dirt. You know, you think of a filter and it's just dark and tons of hair, and but the reality is that airflow is so important, and once that filter starts getting clogged, the dirt ends up just getting vacuumed through the filter and into your system. So it just causes so many problems. I also say it's a lot cheap. Filters are a lot cheaper than HVAC guys. So as far as maintenance, I'm always trying to save the customer as much money as I possibly can. One is, you know, if you're not changing your filter, you're going to have a lot of maintenance that you have on your HVAC system. A lot of wear and tear, which just turns into repairs, which turns into replacement, and we want your equipment to run as long as possible. So definitely change your air filter as often as possible. Something that you really don't see that's a benefit from changing your air filter is, airflow is the circulation of air. So it's got to come in, and I can't get it out if I can't get it in. With that circulation, that's where you see more even temperatures in a house, and it also affects your utility bill. A lot of people are on equal pay, so you're not going to notice, it's up because it's spread out throughout the year, but in reality, your power bill could be up $50 a month just because you're not changing your filter regularly. So the savings just on your utility bill and your efficiency could come from changing that filter also.
Absolutely. So your system has to work a lot harder if your filter is constantly dirty and gross and it puts bad things into it and hurts it.
Absolutely. And I mean, like if you do have, I've been in homes that are, they're spotless clean, but they do have multiple pets and the children are in and out, and they clean all the time, but it's really about the dirt that gets in the air, right? And with that buildup, you just are slowly taking away from time of your system as far as longevity goes. And then in addition to that, it's getting into your system. So I'm coming out there and I'm having to do a lot of maintenance that just probably isn't necessary if you could change your filter.
It could have been avoided, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are some things that people misunderstand or some common myths in your line of work?
With me, I stick on the fact that you should keep airflow going, right? And some of the myths are or mistakes, I guess you could say, is, well, I have a hot bedroom, I'm going to close this vent, I'm going to close that vent. I really try to explain to a customer, you're not heating a bedroom, you're not heating a living room, you're heating a house, right? So all vents open all the time. Sometimes you can close vents. If you're going to do that, I would recommend 10%. So, however many vents you have, if you have 17, 10% is 1.7. So 1 is probably what I would say you could get away with, maybe 2, but then you are also restricting your airflow. I will always rely on the math, and that's, there's, CFM and volume of air and all of those things. Most systems are designed off of that. So that's the reason why I would say just leave them open. That includes like opening doors. If you have teenagers, they always like to close the doors. That's fine, but it's not as good for your circulation of air. So Really, the one thing that they make a mistake on is just closing the downstairs vents because it's cold downstairs, and I'm trying to cool it off upstairs. When in reality, what you're doing is you're closing the vents downstairs. Physics is cold air goes down, hot air goes up, and you are making your system actually freeze over, which will damage the equipment eventually, and it'll cause you problems. So if you are trying to take care of airflow issues, it's best to do that with returns, adding returns in your house. Sometimes homes just aren't designed, whether they're older homes or newer homes, they weren't designed with mechanical in mind.
Okay, so returns, those are those boxes on the ground.
Boxes on the wall, and the difference between possibly moving one up. The reason why I would move one up is because that's where all the hot air is. I've changed a lot of people's homes as far as comfort goes to just be more comfortable in general. That's because I can get all the hot air up and I can get the cold air at a higher level, more where we're at, and then their comfort just changes dramatically. Sometimes customers that are struggling with keeping their temperature, especially in AC season, that has to do with venting issues or airflow issues.
Okay. I struggle, personally, my house, it's always warm upstairs and freezing downstairs, and especially in the winter months here, it can be kind of rough.
Right.
So how do I adjust that issue? How do I get my downstairs warmer?
I would say that exact issue, right? You've got cold air downstairs and all the hot air is upstairs. Looking into airflow, seeing which vents are actually blowing. Sometimes it's not always the return. Sometimes it's a supply issue. Do I have 3 supplies downstairs and 7 supplies upstairs? If I do, all my heat's going upstairs and I don't have any way to fix that. I can either add a supply downstairs so that you have additional heat coming through, or it's just that circulation of air, right? If I can't get the cold air that's downstairs into the system and actually raise or lower that temperature, it's just gonna stay consistent. So adding a return and circulating that air would be the best way to take care of that.
That makes sense, absolutely. How can someone, besides obviously changing the filter, keep their system running longer?
That's really, trusting the professionals. If I come out there, what I'm doing is you need to have us come out every spring for an AC, every fall for the furnace, before it gets to those freezing temperatures. Or really hot temperatures, and then that way you're going to have your system run more efficiently during those months when it's necessary. Once we come out there to do service, we're going to do the general cleaning, find any of the, maybe, it's a mechanical device. Things can come loose. We can stop any problems before they happen so you don't have a mechanical failure. And then we can also address, airflow issues, which is, do you need any type of cleanings? Is your blower motor getting dirty? Is your ignition system getting dirty? Is your outdoor condenser clogged? And we can address those at the time. Also, depending on the age, a lot of people's misconception is, well, I got a new AC 4 years ago, I don't need to do anything with it but change the filter, like, oh, I've been changing it. Well, that's somewhat true, but there's always wear and tear items that are on a furnace. There's wear and tear items that are on an AC, and if those items are not checked and possibly either maintained, then you are going to cause bigger issues with the rest of your system. There's just going to be wear and tear, and you're not going to see 10, 15 years out of a system. You're going to see repairs and failures 8, 9 years into your system.
So you would say probably preventing disasters per se from systems would be 1, changing your filter often. 2, making sure your vents are open and airflow is regulating itself. And then 3, getting your systems checked both in spring and fall, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's additional things that you can do as far as comfort goes. One of those things is running your fan. A lot of people put their thermostat on auto. What that does is when you set your temperature, whatever that is, whatever you're comfortable with, it automatically turns on the system, right? But it doesn't really help circulate your air in your house. So as far as how you were talking about, hey, it's cold downstairs and it's hot upstairs, some of that's because the heat's rising, right? You turn your fan on for two different reasons. Like one, in the winter, you turn it on for a reason, and one in the AC season, you turn it on for a reason. So when you turn it on in the summer, it'll circulate that air. And if we're talking about temperature, what you're doing is you're bringing your temperature down. Your thermostat's normally upstairs, so as soon as it reaches that temperature, the heat in your house starts to rise immediately, and you end up with on, off. That initial turning on the condenser, that's where you lose the most power, right? It just keeps turning on. So if you can get that to where it's not doing it so frequently, you're going to save a lot of money and energy. How I normally solve that problem is I turn the fan on. It especially helps with two-story houses, just because the temperature variance is so far. You could have 67 degrees downstairs and 70, 80 degrees upstairs. But when you turn that fan on, it'll save you a lot of power. Most of the new furnaces nowadays have ECM motors. So the amount of power that actual motor is running with your fan running 24/7 is probably around $15 a month. Your condenser, I mean, every house is different, but the average AC bill is, $200 plus running that. So to save yourself a little bit of money, you can do that. Now in the winter, it's a little bit different. The AC season, you're doing it to save money. In the furnace season, it's more of a comfort thing, because when the fan is running, if the furnace itself isn't actually on and the gas isn't heating the home, it's circulating there, but the circulation of that air will actually cool the house off. But if it's a difference between being comfortable and it being cold downstairs, or being warm downstairs, I choose to turn on the fan. And there is things that we can do to help that. We can turn the blower speed on the fan mode down so it's not blowing as hard. That way it won't cool the air off as much. It's more of just a circulation to get those even temperatures. So that would be definitely one of the things that I would suggest to a homeowner to do, and then just kind of weigh it in as far as comfort, or does the fan bother me running all the time? If it doesn't, you're going to get a lot of benefits from that.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, keeping the airflow constant, but not pushing your system constantly, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think something that most homeowners don't know?
Humidifiers are a good thing. A lot of people want a humidifier. We are in a dry state. They want a humidifier to, take care of dry skin, and it does take care of all those things. Something they don't know is you don't typically run a humidifier in the summer. It's kind of like any of the southern states, you're like, oh, I visited Texas or Florida, and it was only 85, 90 degrees, but it was so hot down there, and that was because of the humidity. The humidity is great for the winter. When your house is humid, it'll actually make you feel more comfortable at a lower temperature. So if your normal heat temperature is 70 degrees, and you have a humidifier, you may save money just by installing a humidifier, because you're going to feel comfortable at 68 degrees, right? So you're not raising your temperature as much. Now, when it's summer, if it's really humid, that's not the cold, crisp, feeling good, like I come home from a hot day and my house is just nice and cold. The humidity will affect that. Some people love it, it's really just a preference. It's always about comfort. That's what HVAC system does, is it provides us comfort at our home. But knowing how to operate those humidifiers, bypass humidifiers, they actually have vents that you need to shut so that they're not circulating in the summer. So some people have been running their bypass humidifiers the entire time that they've had them, all year, and just knowing that there is a shut off for that, there is a way to operate those, and there's a way to feel more comfortable using those.
Would you say that humidifiers also help your system run better? Outside of your own comfort, do they help the system at all?
They are not really helping the system run better, but they will help the system reach temperature as far as the comfort, right? So that is the number one reason why you would have a humidifier, as homes that have a lot of wood, and that, like if you have wood floors in your entire home, it's really good to have a humidifier, just because you can keep that the wood floors, the wood cabinets, all of that stuff lasting longer, because it's not going to dry out as much. So that's something that would be helpful.
Kind of whole home health. I like that.
Absolutely.
Well, that is wonderful. What is one thing that you would say you've learned in the industry that you think everybody should know?
I would say time of year to get service. Service and maintenance are probably the most important things that you can do to your system to make sure that they continue to run. Everyone always calls when you're in the peak season in the industry. It's in the middle of the summer, I should probably get this taken care of. And the reality is companies get really busy. We want to provide the best customer service possible, and that's not the time that you want to call. When you want to call is pre-season. Part of that is because we are able to get out there. You don't have that backlog. Everyone always gets backlogged with customers, and then your system is waiting for us to come out, day, 2 days, sometimes longer than that. And it's already been running for a month, 2 months, and it hasn't been serviced. It hasn't been gone through. You really don't want your system to run that long without having a professional out there at the time or before the time that you're operating that equipment. So if I was going to make any suggestions, or that would be to make sure that we are coming out pre-season to get your system operating.
Before the too hot or the too cold, where
Absolutely.
the systems go downhill. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what exactly are things on a system that only a licensed professional should touch versus kind of things homeowners can do themselves?
I would say most things on a system, you should just leave it to the professionals, right? You get into your system, you try figuring out what's going on, and you cause more problems, possibly injuring yourself. That's just not something that you're going to want to have happen, right? You don't want to, one, cost yourself more money or damage your equipment, or cause any harm to yourself. There is high voltage in all of the equipment, and it's just something that should be left to the professionals. If there is anything that you can do yourself, I would say going outside pre-season, inspecting your condenser, making sure there's not leaves on top of it, in it, around it. You can get a garden hose. You can, so the way that outdoor condenser works is the air gets pulled in and the fan is on and it blows the air up. The problem with that is the outside of the condenser is like a radiator on a car. There's not a lot of gaps in that radiator. The outdoor conditions, the number one worst thing is always cotton trees. Those are AC killers. They will build up. Any kind of animal urine actually can melt the condenser and damage it. So you want to, if you do have animals, you want to make sure that they are not damaging your condenser. And then just, you mow your lawn and the AC's on and the grass and debris gets sucked in there and it clogs it up. one thing I would suggest is taking your garden hose, and since it's pulling the air in and blowing the air out with your thermostat, all you gotta do is turn your thermostat off. You can spray water from the inside out where you see that, never with chemicals, never with anything high pressure because you can damage those coils, but just with a garden hose with your thumb and kind of rinse that off and get the debris off of there. That is going to help with the efficiency of the condenser itself. And it's also going to make it to where we don't have to come out and actually treat the system. An outdoor condenser cleaning really needs to be done by a professional. That's when we are taking the outside housing of that off. There's a lot of things that could be damaged if you do that yourself. And we do treat it with chemicals, but they are designed for that will not damage your HVAC system, and it gets all of that debris off. So if you are doing that regularly, you are going to save on your efficiency bill, and it's also going to put a little bit of longevity before we actually have to treat that system.
So if I do see like a bunch of leaves inside of the condenser, you think of a condenser, there's a big fan that you can look down on it. Under that fan, I'm seeing a lot of leaves. Can't get them out with a hose, obviously. They're inside of there. I should call you to go ahead and get that cleaned out, or is that something?
Absolutely. And I mean, if you're calling us and you're doing it in that spring season, right? It's fall. The leaves fall in your condenser. Before you do a startup on your AC, you give us a call. We're able to go out there and inspect those leaves at the time, see if we can get some of that debris out. If they end up falling or building up enough to where they're composting onto your system, you're going to end up getting corrosion and cause a lot of issues with your internal system that way. So we can get all of that stuff out, and we can inspect your condenser coil and the different maintenance items on a condenser also at that time.
That makes sense. If I replace my outdoor unit, do I need to replace my indoor unit as well?
It's always what is going to be the best financial decision for the homeowner, right? I want to make sure that I'm providing the best service for you that I possibly can. Depending on the age, I would say yes. I mean, there's when you pair equipment up that is meant to run together, it's going to run more efficient, it's going to run better, it's going to be under warranty. There's a lot of benefits with replacing your entire system. When you replace one system or half of your system, we'll say, there's a lot of savings to just doing it all at once. If we have to come in and do 2 jobs, obviously it's going to cost a little bit more to do twice the work. If we're able to take care of the whole entire system all at once, it's good. I would say that's the biggest benefit, is it's just going to be more efficient, and you're going to save a little bit of money to start off with. But as far as pairing up different brands or different types of equipment, our guys can come out there and really inspect that and see if there's any upgrades, any kind of cost savings that we can save, as far as are we looking to get some type of rebate, are we looking to be more efficient. Like my AC, I had a builder grade AC. It was just an astronomical AC bill. So it was just a better value for me to replace the condenser like right off the bat, because I was going to spend more money on my AC bill than I would by replacing the AC itself. So in the long run, that was the best value for my family. Once we come out there, we can evaluate those situations and kind of go over that with you on what's best for you.
Oh, awesome. Yes, that's great to know. So my second question that I have on this list is, we've talked a lot about the winter and the summer. Should you cover your AC unit between like the fall and winter? I've seen a lot of AC covers advertised. Is that something you recommend?
So, I have a biased opinion when it comes to this. Can you? Yes, you can definitely cover it. My biggest concern is that you forget the cover is on there. You turn on your AC and you damage your brand new AC. It can absolutely, I've seen covers on a brand new AC, and luckily I was able to take it off there and get the AC to continue to run. But once the damage is done, it's done. You start wearing out the compressor, overheating parts, and it's extreme damage if you leave cover on there. Some situations where there's a pine tree and the pine needles, from fall all the way to spring end up going in there, and there would be more damage put into an AC than if I didn't put a cover on there. I would say, yeah, put a cover on there, reduce the damage and the risk and the cleanings that we were talking about. But for the most part, AC condensers are designed to be outside. If they wasn't, then they would figure out a way to build them to be inside, or there would be some sort of cover or thing to protect them. I don't cover mine personally. I leave it outside. I do make sure before I start it up, I clean it off and make sure it's ready for the spring. But really, that's just all the information for covers that you can possibly have, and making the best decision, what's right for you, and that if you are going to cover it, you're responsible and you take it off before you start it up so there's no damage.
No, that does make sense, and I can only imagine the damage that could be caused by your AC being covered, especially like overheating or not getting the airflow, so you run it even more and even more without knowing that you're the one causing the damage. Bit of a different question. R22 systems. Those are kind of going out. I know Freon is completely been banned and whatnot. So should I replace my R22 system?
I would say absolutely yes. R22 systems were great systems. As far as what I can do to work on an R22 system, there's just not a lot left. The R22, there just is nothing that I can do with the refrigerant. The refrigerant itself, the reason why it has been banned or it went away is because it was just so bad for the environment. It was just deemed that we can no longer use this. This wasn't like a next day type of thing. This is 20 years in the making. It sort of phased out, and then they develop a new refrigerant system. In addition to that, I would say an R22 system is normally not that efficient. There are higher efficient R22 systems, but typically when I see somebody have a R22 system, it's 15, 20 years old. It's drawing an abundance of amperage and power, so my guys can come out there and actually look at that and find out if it's drawing a lot of power, what efficiency rating. And the newer systems, they're just a lot more efficient. So where you're going to actually save is not just from your system running, right? There's a few maintenance items that I could do to try to keep that R22 system alive, but really where you save is on your energy bill. If I am installing an up-to-date, more efficient system, it just makes sense over the long run. And you're going to end up having to do it anyway. If your R22 system is low on refrigerant at all, it's just not going to work properly. So really changing it out is the only option that you have.
Okay. And probably the sooner the better kind of a situation with that one, right?
Yeah, it's to do it, everybody has their own financial situations. So if your financial situation is in line with being able to really make that commitment to a new appliance to your home, which I don't, if you're weighing everything out and you're saving $100, $200 on your energy bill per month, that adds up pretty quick. You start applying that to your savings towards what you would spend on a new system, it just makes sense. So it's more about going over those options with your family and making that decision. And like I say, once it's all laid out, it's going to be the way that I think anybody would really want to go.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Getting a new system before the old one really kicks the bucket. Okay, the next question we have is it bad that my system makes a lot of noise, and what could cause that?
You know, there's always different noises that a system makes. If you are seeing the AC come on and the lights are drawing, that's a power issue. It's overamping, it's overdrawing power. Hard noises from a condenser. A condenser is not supposed to be screaming outside. It's supposed to turn on and just keep a really consistent noise level. We try to get the quietest condensers that we possibly can because nobody wants to hear their AC running all the time in the backyard. But definitely give us a call if there's any concerns. Some of the noises that come from systems are things that we can prevent. It could be low refrigerant, so you have a condenser out there, the compressor itself is trying to circulate the refrigerant, and because it's low, it's trying harder than it should, and it makes a really loud, long noise that is consistent with it running. So I would definitely say if you just feel uncomfortable with the way something's operating, you should always get a professional out there to look at it so we can save it before you have any damage.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. And then what can I do about my indoor air quality? How can I make it better?
So air quality is always a huge thing. You can get your ducts cleaned. A lot of people buy air purifiers. It seems like they're really popular nowadays. Dyson is like a really well-known brand name. The problem with having like an individual air purifier is if I put in an air purifier, it says that it covers 2,000 square feet. That's my entire home. It starts purifying the air, say in my living room, and it starts working its way out. But then my HVAC system turns on and it blows all the dirt and debris into the house. It just keeps making my home dirty, and then it slowly purifies in that area or not the whole home. The best way to purify your air is going to be through your HVAC system. That's because that's where all the air is passing. That's where your filter is to actually purify your air. You're changing that filter on a regular basis. I have seen air purifiers, my parents are one that they live in a house that we'll say it's a little drafty. It's an older house, lots of dust problems. They're dusting weekly. We put an air purifier in the house and they said that they only dust like once every 2 months. So dusting is like a benefit. There's a lot of health benefits. In Utah, there's, sometimes we have fire season. Everybody has pollution season, it seems like, in the springs or in those months where there's a lot of pollution. So an air purifier can get all of that. Sometimes it's a little frustrating because those air purifiers definitely do their job, and then that goes back into filtration. If it's filtrating enough contaminants in your air, you might have to end up actually changing your filter a little premature, not on the 1 month mark, a little bit before that. But that's a big benefit. I would much rather pay, $2 to $5 for an air filter and pull all that dirt out and put a new filter in and not breathe that dirty air, which my daughter has asthma. And to be able to keep her asthma to a minimum, the irritation of the air quality out of her lungs, that means the world to me. So doing it properly is definitely having an air purification system in your ductwork so it can catch all that air instead of just having one in your home.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. What would you say would be the best way for someone to extend the life of their unit?
We've covered a lot of things, and I just cannot stress enough how much airflow is important, right? If I change my filter, I have somebody come out and maintain my system every single year. I would just say the consistency of changing my air filter and having somebody come out to make sure that we can get you that longevity of your system is going to be the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, I would say consistency for anything is a very, very good thing, especially with big systems like this. It does absolutely make sense. The next question, what are my options for making my system more energy efficient?
Depending on your system, I have seen, so I go into a customer's home, and multiple times I've seen either a system that is too big, or I've seen a system that's too small. If the system's too big, you can actually, well, one, it can be a safety hazard, but you are, depending on your, whether it's AC or furnace, but you're spending more money to heat or cool your home because the system is not sized properly. And you're also going to have a lot of other issues as far as the furnace overheating or the AC freezing over. If your system's too small, it's going to run a lot longer than it should. So having us come out and making sure that your current system is sized properly is the best thing that you can do for efficiency. Going over options to see what system works best for you. They have a lot of different ways to save money. You've got everything from you got the 80% to 90%, so you're saving a little bit of efficiency as far as the gas usage. You have two-stage equipment, so what that does is it starts off slow and uses less power, and then once it gets to a good operating temperature, it actually steps up and then heats your home. You have variable speed equipment, which it learns and knows that it will start at a stop point and it'll work its way up, and it has multiple speeds that it runs at, depending on the satisfying the temperature throughout the day. So that's a good way. There's just so many types of HVAC equipment that you could go through. The actual turning on the fan is a really good one. But other than finding the right equipment for your home, operating your system properly, leaving those vents open, those are all the best things. It's like they all take a small role into efficiency.
Okay. Does thermostat play a part in that at all? Like, is there a thermostat that provides great energy savings?
That's the great debate. When I go into a customer's home, it's normally about comfort, right? Sometimes that comes at a cost. If it's 100 degrees outside and you're a polar bear, you're just not going to have very good efficiency, It's just the reality. Insulation in a home is huge. Having window treatment so you don't have heat loss, that's a big deal. But operation does have something to do with it. Smart thermostats do help with that. Not everybody likes a smart thermostat that's set on an eco setting, because eco does not include comfort. If I have a thermostat and it's on an eco setting and it is trying to run my system as efficiently as possible, that does not mean I'm going to be comfortable. It may turn on my furnace or AC at a later time or a sooner time to try to heat it up before, or not cool it off until this time of day, to get those run cycles shorter and shorter. The reality is the more that you run the system, the more energy you're going to use. So figuring out the best times of day to keep that efficiency so you can absorb energy as little as possible. And then also knowing what to set your temperature or your thermostat at. If you're comfortable at, say, a 72 degree temperature, and then you're like, well, I'm going to save a little bit of money, so I'm going to turn it down 10 degrees. and then you go to work and you come back. Well, one, you're not comfortable when you get home, and it's going to take, especially in the AC season, it's going to take a lot longer for it to come down to those 10 degrees. I typically tell a homeowner to be within 5 degrees of whatever temperature that they're setting that thermostat at, unless they're traveling, and then you could go a little bit further than that. But for the most part, leave your thermostat within 5 degrees of the comfort and just let it do its job, and then keep it at whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. What would you say the life expectancy of, like, I get a furnace today, a furnace AC today? What would the life expectancy of that system be, assuming I kept up regular maintenance?
If you're keeping up regular maintenance, 10 years plus. Everything's a mechanical device, so they could have issues. If you were doing routine air filter changes, we're out every single year. There's no reason why I can't get your system to be 15 years plus as far as longevity. I mean, as long as there's not a crack in the heat exchanger, there's definitely a way that we can fix your furnace. We can fix your AC. It's just you always run into 15, 17, 18 years. The parts on an 18-year-old furnace are starting to go up. The availability for that start to go up, or whether or not we're able to get those parts, it gets harder and harder. So then you start looking at the value of keeping something that's 15, 16, 17 years old running compared to starting back to the day where you had that furnace installed or that AC installed and kind of hands-free at that point. I mean, really all we've got to do is come out, service it, do some maintenance, everything's under warranty, and then from there you just get further and further from a brand new system. So yeah, I would say 15 years.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, you think about that, that's like a whole kid's life, right? 15 years.
It is a long time, especially because one thing people don't think about is, if a furnace or an AC had mileage on it, I mean, that's kind of the heart of the home, right? When you come home and it's cold outside, it's warm, or when you come home and it's hot outside and it's cold, it's really what brings you comfort to your house. And that system itself is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you're looking at a furnace that is 10 years old, it's got 1 million miles on it. It's been running non-stop for 10 years. So for us to be able to keep that thing running for 15 years, it's definitely going to take a lot of work for us to do that, or at least a lot of getting us out there to keep our eyes on it so you don't have some sort of failure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that makes complete sense, something running that long. The next question we have is, how does air conditioning actually work?
So, how it actually works is everyone always thinks that their air conditioner is like a separate unit, right? It works with a furnace, and everything with HVAC works with airflow. So what it does is your furnace turns on and it circulates the air in your home. You have a coil that's above that. That coil is connected to the condenser outside. It has refrigerant that runs through it. The expansion of the refrigerant is the cooling, and the compression of the refrigerant actually heats up. That's why you have coils outside or a condenser outside, and it's large. It is compressing the refrigerant, and then it runs through those coils and it cools it off, and it sends it back over to your AC or your indoor coil, and as the air passes it, it expands and you are cooling off your home. What I'm doing when I come out to your house is I am charging your system, and what that looks like inside the system is I am trying to get that evaporation to happen immediately once it reaches that coil, but not just evaporate at the top. It has to be an evaporation for the full surface area. The better I can do that, the more surface area I have that is at a lower temperature when that air passes, and I can cool off the air in your home.
Okay. Pretty complicated. You made it a little simple for us. I like it. The final question of the podcast today is, how will I know if I should repair or replace my system?
Every system that you put in a home is an investment. When we come out there, we want to take care of your investment. So going over repair versus replacement is always a decision of the homeowner. We are extremely thorough. We don't want to have to come out and repair and repair and repair and repair. That's just a hassle, and it's also makes it to where there could be some sort of emergency, right? I'm in the middle of summer and my AC goes out, and or I'm in the middle of winter and my furnace goes out. Nobody wants that to happen after they already had a professional out there. So making sure you call the right person so that they can thoroughly inspect if there is any kind of repairs, not just one item, the whole entire furnace. You have to be thorough so you don't have failures in the future. And then just really sizing up the age of the equipment, the amount of repairs that you have versus the cost of replacement, and comparing those and making the best financial decision for yourself and your family. That's really how I go off of when it's time to replace a system.
Okay, so it's a lot of different factors, kind of to everything we've talked about today.
Absolutely, there's just variables in all of it, and giving information to a homeowner is the best thing that we can do, because that's their home, and we really want them to make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah, and it's all about them and their comfortability. Like you said, the systems themselves are there for our comfort. So, well, it was amazing talking to you and connecting. Thank you so much, and thank you all for taking action. We'll see you next week.